Between 1837 and 1901, during Queen Victoria's reign, marriage represented far more than a union between two people. It was a complex social institution that determined a woman's entire future, her legal status, and her place in society. Victorian weddings were elaborate theatrical productions where families displayed their wealth, social connections, and moral respectability. For a young woman, her wedding day marked the most significant transformation of her life. The moment she ceased to be her father's daughter and became her husband's wife, trading one form of male guardianship for another. The Victorian wedding was never simply about love, though romantic affection certainly played a role. It was about strategic alliances between families, the transfer of property and dowries, and the continuation of respectable bloodlines. Every detail, from the bride's trousseau to the guest list, from the morning ceremony to the elaborate breakfast reception, carried social meaning and communicated the family's status to their community. The preparation process could span an entire year, involving dozens of servants, artisans, and merchants. A bride's trousseau alone might represent months of careful planning and considerable expense, as she needed to arrive at her new home fully equipped for her role as mistress of the household. The white wedding dress, popularised by Queen Victoria's own 1840 ceremony, became the symbol of purity and new beginnings that defined the Victorian bride. This was a world where a single misstep in wedding etiquette could damage a family's reputation for generations, where the choice of flowers carried coded messages, and where the elaborate rituals of courtship, engagement, and marriage served as both romantic theatre and serious social business. The stakes were impossibly high, but somehow, amidst all the rules and restrictions, genuine love still managed to flourish. Let's start today's story. Get comfortable, adjust those pillows, and settle in, because we're about to experience one of the most elaborate and emotionally charged journeys in Victorian society, the complete transformation of a young woman from daughter to wife. You're about to live through every heart-pounding moment of a Victorian wedding preparation, from the first flutter of romance to the final rice thrown at the departing carriage. You are Lady Charlotte Pemberton, 17 years old, and this crisp October morning in 1865 feels different somehow as you wake in your family's Mayfair townhouse. The autumn light filtering through your heavy velvet curtains seems brighter, more golden, as if the world itself has shifted overnight. But you know exactly what has changed. Yesterday's encounter with Mr. Edmund Ashworth at Lady Whitmore's afternoon soir has left your heart beating an entirely different rhythm. Your lady's maid, Sarah, notices immediately as she helps you from your nightgown. You seem particularly bright this morning, Miss Charlotte, she observes with a knowing smile, carefully avoiding any direct questions that might compromise your privacy. Sarah has been with your family since you were 12, and she understands the delicate dance of Victorian courtship better than most mothers. The memory plays again as Sarah brushes your long auburn hair, Edmund's gentle approach as you stood by the pianoforte, listening to Miss Pembroke's rather mechanical rendition of a Mozart sonata. "Do you play as well?" he had asked, his voice carrying that particular timbre that made something flutter deep in your chest. When you admitted that you preferred sketching to music, his eyes had lit with genuine interest. Not the polite attention most gentlemen showed to young ladies' hobbies, but real curiosity. "I've always believed that art reveals more about a person's character than conversation," he had said, leaning slightly closer to examine your sketchbook when you shyly showed him your watercolour of Hyde Park. This capturing of light on the Serpentine, it suggests someone who notices beauty in quiet moments. The way his gloved finger had traced the edge of your sketch, careful not to touch the paper directly, but coming tantalizingly close to your own hand. Even now, 12 hours later, You can feel the electricity of that almost contact. Your skin had tingled beneath your white kid gloves, and you had struggled to maintain the composed expression your governess had drilled into you for years. But it was the moment of departure that truly sealed your fate. As he took his leave from Lady Whitmore, Edmund had paused before you, executing a perfect bow. "Miss Pemberton, I wonder if I might have the honour of calling on you and your family this week. I find myself most eager to continue our discussion about watercolour techniques." The formal words carried layers of meaning that sent your pulse racing. A gentleman's request to call was the first official step in Victorian courtship, a declaration of serious romantic interest. Now, as Sarah laces you into your morning corset, you find yourself holding your breath, not from the stays, but from anticipation. Your mother had given her gracious permission for the call, scheduled for Thursday at 3 o'clock. That gives you exactly 4 days to perfect your appearance, practice elegant conversation, and somehow manage the butterflies that seem to have taken permanent residence in your stomach. "The blue morning dress, miss?" Sarah suggests, holding up a confection of silk and lace that brings out the colour of your eyes, and perhaps the cameo brooch your grandmother left you. Something speaks to the propriety of the occasion. As you nod agreement, you catch sight of yourself in the full-length mirror. The girl, staring back, looks the same as always. Pale skin, fashionably so. Tiny waist, emphasized by expert corseting. Hair, arranged in the elaborate ringlets, currently in style. But something in your eyes has changed. There's a spark there, a sense of anticipation that transforms your entire countenance. Your mother appears in the doorway, already dressed for the day, in dove grey silk that marks her status as a married woman of impeccable taste. "Charlotte, dear, your father wishes to speak with you about Mr. Ashworth." Her tone is carefully neutral, but you catch the slight satisfaction in her expression. The Ashworth family owns considerable property in Yorkshire and maintains a respectable townhouse in Belgravia. From a maternal perspective, Edmund represents an excellent prospect. As you follow your mother downstairs to the morning room, where your father waits behind his newspaper and coffee service, you realise that yesterday's conversation has set in motion forces far beyond your control. Victorian courtship is not simply about two people falling in love. It's a complex negotiation between families, a careful weighing of social status, financial prospects, and moral character. The girl you were yesterday, sketching quietly in Lady Whitmore's drawing room, is already becoming someone new. By Thursday's call, by next month's possible dinner invitation, by next season's potential engagement, you will continue this metamorphosis. The butterfly feeling in your stomach isn't just romantic excitement, it's the recognition that your entire future hangs in the balance of the next few months. Your father looks up from his paper as you enter. "Ah, Charlotte, I trust you made a favourable impression yesterday." His question is gentle, but weighted with paternal concern for your prospects. In Victorian society, a daughter's successful marriage reflects directly on her family's social standing and parenting skills. "I believe so, Papa," you reply, settling into your chair with practiced grace. The conversation that follows will determine whether Edmund's Thursday call proceeds as planned, or whether some subtle obstacle will be placed in his path. Your romantic future depends not just on your own feelings, but on your parents' assessment of Edmund's suitability as a son-in-law. The dance of Victorian courtship has begun, and you are both its star performer and its most vulnerable participant. Thursday afternoon arrives with the persistence of fate itself, and by 2:30 you have changed your dress 3 times, rearranged your hair twice, and questioned every decision your 17 years of life have prepared you to make. The blue silk morning dress Sarah suggested has been deemed too presumptuous, the pink too girlish, and finally you settle on a dress of soft lavender wool that strikes the perfect balance between modest and becoming. The drawing room has been prepared, as if for royalty. Your mother supervised the servants' arrangements personally. Fresh flowers from the conservatory, arranged in the Waterford crystal vases, your best watercolours strategically displayed on the easel near the window, the good china service polished until it gleams. Even the antimacassars on the furniture have been changed to the finest Irish lace. Nothing can be left to chance when a young gentleman comes calling with serious intentions. At precisely 3 o'clock, Henderson, your butler, appears in the doorway with a silver salver bearing a single calling card. Mr. Edmund Ashworth, to see Miss Charlotte and Mrs. Pemberton, he announces, with the gravity befitting the occasion. Your mother rises gracefully, smoothing her silk skirts, and you follow her lead, your heart hammering so loudly you're certain everyone in the room can hear it. Edmund enters the drawing room like a figure from one of your romantic novels, impeccably dressed in a morning coat of dark blue wool, his cravat tied in the latest fashion, his dark hair gleaming with pomade. But it's his eyes that capture you, warm brown, with flecks of gold, and focused entirely on your face as he executes a perfect bow to your mother before turning to you. Miss Pemberton, he says, and your name sounds different in his voice, more musical somehow. How lovely to see you again. He takes your gloved hand in his, bows over it with precisely the correct degree of formality, and yet something in the gentle pressure of his fingers sends warmth shooting up your arm. Your mother, playing her role as chaperone with practiced ease, settles into her usual chair with her embroidery, close enough to monitor every word while maintaining the fiction of being occupied with her needlework. Mr. Ashworth, how fortunate that the weather has turned so pleasant for your visit. The conversation that follows is a careful dance of Victorian social protocol. You discuss the weather, unseasonably warm for October, the theatre, Mr. Irving's recent performance at the Lyceum was quite remarkable, and current literature, Mr. Dickens's latest instalment in his serial, was particularly moving. But beneath this surface propriety, an entirely different conversation unfolds through glances, tone, and careful word choice. I've been thinking about our discussion of watercolour techniques, Edmund says, his gaze moving to your easel. I confess myself quite ignorant of the artistic process. Perhaps you might enlighten me about your approach to capturing light. The question is innocent enough, but the way he leans forward slightly, the genuine interest in his expression, the fact that he remembered your artistic pursuits at all, these details speak to a character that values your thoughts and opinions beyond mere politeness. You rise to show him your latest painting, a landscape of Richmond Park that you completed just this week. The secret lies in working quickly when painting outdoors, you explain, surprised by how natural it feels to share your passion with him. The light changes so rapidly, especially in autumn. One must capture the essential impression before worrying about precise details. Edmund studies the painting with the attention most gentlemen reserve for discussing horses or hunting. This quality of the late afternoon light, how do you achieve such subtlety in the shadows? His question demonstrates not only genuine curiosity, but also a willingness to acknowledge your expertise in your chosen field. Your mother glances up from her embroidery, a slight frown creasing her brow. Extended discussions of artistic technique venture dangerously close to intellectual discourse, which proper young ladies should approach with caution. Charlotte has always had a gift for pretty watercolours, she interjects smoothly, though, of course, her accomplishments in music and French are equally well developed. The gentle redirect reminds everyone present of the proper boundaries of feminine education, but Edmund's responding smile suggests he understands both the spoken and unspoken messages. A young lady of such varied accomplishments must find society quite engaging, he replies diplomatically, while his eyes convey a different message entirely, that he values your artistic passion regardless of social expectations. As the visit progresses through the prescribed 30 minutes, you become increasingly aware of the performance aspects of Victorian courtship. Every gesture, every comment, every moment of eye contact is observed and evaluated by your mother, noted for later discussion with your father, and measured against the complex standards of proper behaviour. Yet somehow, through all this social theatre, genuine connection manages to bloom. When Edmund takes his leave, executing another perfect bow and expressing hope for future opportunities to continue your conversation, he leaves behind something more substantial than calling card formalities. The drawing room feels different after his departure, charged with possibility, heavy with the weight of potential futures. A most acceptable young gentleman, your mother observes, after Henderson has seen him out. Proper bearing, appropriate conversation, evident regard for social proprieties. She pauses in her needlework, studying your face with maternal shrewdness. I believe your father will be quite satisfied with today's visit. But you know that your father's satisfaction, while crucial, is only one element in the complex equation of Victorian courtship. Edmund must now demonstrate consistency in his attentions, prove his financial stability and social standing, navigate the intricate expectations of your extended family and social circle, and somehow maintain the delicate balance between romantic interest and proper restraint. As you change from your receiving dress into something more comfortable for the evening, you catch sight of yourself again in the bedroom mirror. The girl who woke up this morning already seems younger, more naive than the young woman staring back now. One 30-minute social call has shifted the entire trajectory of your future, setting in motion a series of events that will determine not just whom you marry, but who you become. The Victorian marriage machine has claimed you as its latest participant, and there is no turning back. 3 weeks have transformed your daily existence into a state of perpetual anticipation. Edmund now calls twice, weekly Tuesdays and Thursdays, at precisely 3 o'clock, and these visits have become the axis around which your entire world revolves. Every Monday evening you plan your Tuesday outfit with Sarah's help, discussing whether the green silk brings out your eyes, or if the rose-coloured wool better complements your complexion. Every Wednesday, you lie awake analysing Thursday's conversation, replaying each exchange for hidden meanings and future possibilities. Today's Tuesday, November 7th, 1865, and your preparation ritual has reached new heights of complexity. Sarah has spent an hour arranging your hair in an intricate style that appears effortlessly elegant while requiring dozens of pins and strategic placement of hairpieces. Your dress, a confection of amber silk with tiny pearl buttons, was selected not just for its beauty, but for its subtle message, sophisticated enough to suggest maturity, modest enough to maintain propriety. The cameo earrings or the garnets, miss? Sarah asks, holding up both options for your consideration. The choice feels monumentally important, as if the wrong earrings might somehow derail your entire romantic future. The garnets, you decide, then immediately second-guess yourself. No, wait, the cameos. They're more appropriate for afternoon visits. The garnets, a gift from your late grandmother, feel too dramatic for daylight hours, too much like jewellery a married woman might wear to evening entertainments. Your mother joins you in the drawing room 10 minutes before Edmund's expected arrival, settling into her chair with her eternal embroidery while observing your nervous movements with maternal amusement. Charlotte, dear, do try to sit still. You're fidgeting suggests unseemly eagerness. But how can you sit still when every fibre of your being vibrates with anticipation? These twice-weekly visits have evolved from formal social calls into something approaching genuine courtship. Last Thursday, Edmund brought you a small volume of poetry Tennyson's latest collection, with certain passages marked with nearly invisible pencil dots. That evening, alone in your bedroom, you discovered that the marked poems all dealt with themes of devotion, patience in love, and hope for future happiness. The gift of books between unmarried people walks a careful line in Victorian society. Unlike flowers, which carry their own symbolic language, or jewellery, which implies too intimate a connection, books suggest intellectual compatibility while remaining socially acceptable. The fact that Edmund chose poetry and marked specific passages transforms the gift into a form of coded communication that your mother cannot object to while conveying messages that set your heart racing. Henderson's appearance with the silver salver announcing Edmund's arrival has become as familiar as church bells on Sunday morning, yet it still sends a jolt of excitement through your system. Today Edmund looks particularly handsome in a new waistcoat of deep blue brocade that brings out the colour of his eyes, and when he bows over your hand, you notice he holds the contact just a fraction longer than strict propriety requires. "Miss Pemberton," he says, and something in his tone suggests this visit carries special significance. "Mrs. Pemberton, I trust I find you both in good health?" The usual pleasantries flow smoothly, but you detect an undercurrent of nervous energy in Edmund's manner. He inquires after your father's health, compliments the arrangement of chrysanthemums your mother has chosen for the mantelpiece, and discusses the unusually mild weather with slightly more intensity than the topic warrants. Finally, after 15 minutes of careful conversation, Edmund clears his throat delicately. "Mrs. Pemberton, I wonder if I might request a particular favour. My mother has expressed great desire to meet Miss Charlotte, and I hoped I might invite you both to join our family for dinner next Tuesday evening." Your mother's embroidery needle pauses mid-stitch. A dinner invitation represents a significant escalation in courtship protocol, far more formal than afternoon calls, involving both families in evening entertainment that acknowledges serious romantic intentions. Such invitations are not extended lightly, nor accepted without careful consideration of their implications. "How thoughtful of Mrs. Ashworth," your mother replies carefully, her tone giving nothing away, while her mind undoubtedly races through the social calculations such an invitation requires. "I shall need to consult with Mr. Pemberton, of course, but I believe we would be delighted to accept." The relief that crosses Edmund's features tells you everything about his own nervousness regarding this invitation. Presenting a young lady to his mother represents his public declaration that she deserves serious consideration as a potential wife. Your pulse quickens as you realize you have just agreed to undergo inspection by the woman who will either welcome you into the Ashworth family or find you unsuitable for her son. "Excellent," Edmund says, his smile transforming his entire countenance. "Mother is quite eager to discuss your artistic pursuits, Miss Charlotte. I may have mentioned your remarkable talent for watercolours." The conversation that follows takes on new depth and intimacy. With the dinner invitation extended and accepted, some invisible barrier has been crossed. Edmund asks more direct questions about your interests, your opinions on various topics, your thoughts about literature and art. Your mother still maintains her watchful presence, but even she seems to recognise that the relationship has entered a new phase, requiring different protocols. When Edmund mentions his estate in Yorkshire Ashworth Manor, with its extensive grounds and well-stocked library, you understand he is painting a picture of the life he might offer you. The casual references to the morning room that overlooks the rose garden, the music room with its excellent pianoforte, the conservatory where you might pursue your botanical sketches, all carry the subtext of invitation. As the 30-minute visit extends to nearly an hour, a breach of protocol that your mother allows without comment, you find yourself imagining life as mistress of Ashworth Manor. The vision is both thrilling and terrifying. Managing a large household, entertaining Yorkshire society, bearing and raising children in those grand rooms Edmund describes so lovingly. When he finally takes his leave, Edmund's bow carries new formality. Until Tuesday evening, Miss Pemberton, I confess I am quite eager for you to see Ashworth House. His London residence, he means, where the dinner will take place. But the way he says your name, the warmth in his eyes, suggests he is thinking of far more than a single evening's entertainment. After his departure, your mother sets aside her embroidery with an air of decision. Charlotte, we must discuss your wardrobe for Tuesday evening. This dinner represents a crucial opportunity to make the proper impression on Mrs. Ashworth. As you spend the evening examining evening gowns and calculating the social significance of jewellery choices, you realise that your girlhood is rapidly drawing to a close. Each successful visit, each accepted invitation, each positive maternal evaluation brings you closer to a proposal, engagement, and marriage that will transform you from Miss Charlotte Pemberton into Mrs. Edmund Ashworth. The butterfly feelings in your stomach have evolved into something deeper and more complex. Not just romantic excitement, but awareness that you stand on the threshold between two entirely different lives. The choice you make, or that circumstances make for you, will determine everything that follows. Where you live, how you spend your days, what dreams remain possible, and what sacrifices love will require. The Victorian marriage machine continues its relentless operation, and you are no longer simply caught in its gears. You have become an active participant in your own transformation. Tuesday evening arrives, wrapped in November fog and your own nearly overwhelming anxiety. Sarah has spent the better part of 2 hours transforming you into what she calls a vision of proper young ladyhood. Your best evening gown of deep rose silk with its fashionable off-shoulder neckline, your mother's pearl necklace, and your hair arranged in an elaborate coiffure that required 47 hairpins and a prayer to the gods of social success. Your mother, resplendent in midnight blue silk that proclaims her status as an established matron, has subjected you to a final examination before departure. Remember, Charlotte, Mrs. Ashworth will be evaluating not just your appearance and accomplishments, but your character and suitability as a wife for her son. Be charming but not forward, intelligent but not opinionated, accomplished but not competitive. The carriage ride to Belgravia feels simultaneously endless and terrifyingly brief. Your father, dignified in his evening dress, attempts to ease your nerves with gentle conversation about the weather and the latest political developments, but you can barely focus on his words over the thundering of your pulse. Everything you have worked towards since childhood, your education, your accomplishments, your careful training in social graces, will be judged tonight by a woman whose approval could determine your entire future. Ashworth House proves to be an imposing Georgian structure with elegant proportions and perfectly maintained grounds. Gas lamps flicker in the evening mist, casting golden pools of light on the polished steps where a liveried footman waits to hand you down from the carriage. Even the servants here seem more formally dressed than your family's staff, a subtle indication of the Ashworth family's elevated social position. Edmund greets you in the entrance hall, and your breath catches at how handsome he looks in full evening dress. The severe black and white of formal attire suits his dark colouring perfectly, and when he bows over your gloved hand, his eyes convey both pride and nervous anticipation that mirror your own feelings. "Miss Pemberton, you look absolutely lovely this evening," he says, his voice warm with genuine admiration. "Mother is quite eager to meet you." Mrs. Ashworth awaits in the drawing room. A formidable woman in her early 50s, whose silver hair is arranged in the elaborate style favoured by society matrons. Her gown of plum-coloured silk is perfectly cut and adorned with the type of jewellery that speaks of both wealth and impeccable taste. When she rises to greet you, her assessment is so thorough and swift that you feel as though you've been catalogued, evaluated, and preliminarily approved before she even speaks. "Miss Pemberton," she says, extending her hand with precisely the correct degree of warmth. "Edmund has spoken of you so frequently that I feel we are already acquainted. What a pleasure to finally meet the young lady who has captured my son's attention so completely." The evening that follows feels like the most important examination of your life, though it masquerades as elegant dinner conversation. Mrs. Ashworth guides the discussion with the skill of a general commanding troops, touching on topics designed to reveal your character, education, and suitability for marriage into her family. She inquires about your musical accomplishments, adequate but not exceptional, your facility with languages, French fluent, German conversational, Italian minimal, and your domestic skills, needlework excellent, household management theoretical but enthusiastic. "I understand you have quite a talent for watercolour painting," Mrs. Ashworth observes during the second course, "a delicate consomme that you're too nervous to properly taste. Edmund mentioned your landscapes are particularly accomplished." "Charlotte has a remarkable eye for light and composition," Edmund interjects before you can respond, his pride in your abilities evident to everyone at the table. "Her painting of Richmond Park captured nuances I had never noticed, despite walking those paths countless times." His mother's slight smile suggests she has noted both his enthusiasm and his willingness to champion your talents. "Artistic ability often indicates sensitivity and refinement of character," she says diplomatically. "Such qualities can be quite valuable in a wife, provided they don't overshadow more practical considerations." The subtle warning is clear. Creativity is acceptable as an accomplishment, but must never compete with your primary duties as wife, mother, and household manager. You nod understanding, though something inside you rebels against the implication that your artistic passion must be forever subordinated to domestic obligations. As the evening progresses through multiple courses, each perfectly prepared and elegantly served, you begin to relax slightly. Mrs. Ashworth's questions, while probing, are not unkind, and your parents contribute to the conversation with exactly the right balance of pride in your accomplishments and deference to their host's superior social position. The true test comes during the brief period when the gentlemen retire for port and cigars, leaving you alone with Mrs. Ashworth in the drawing room. This is when Victorian mothers conduct their most serious evaluations, woman to woman, without the softening presence of masculine gallantry. "Tell me, my dear Mrs." Ashworth says, as she pours tea with ceremonial precision, "what are your expectations for marriage? What do you believe makes a union successful?" The question is a trap wrapped in silk, designed to reveal whether you possess realistic understanding of a wife's duties or harbour romantic notions that might interfere with practical harmony. You choose your words carefully, drawing on years of observation and maternal instruction. "I believe marriage requires mutual respect, shared values, and commitment to family welfare above individual desires," you reply. "A wife's greatest accomplishment lies in creating a home where her husband can thrive and their children can develop proper character. Mrs. Ashworth nods approvingly, but her next question cuts deeper. And if your husband's interests conflict with your own? If, for instance, he prefers you to discontinue activities that bring you personal satisfaction? The hypothetical scenario forces you to confront the reality of Victorian marriage. A wife's identity dissolves into her husband's. Her preferences become secondary to his wishes, her dreams subject to his approval or disapproval. Yet you also sense this is an opportunity to demonstrate both flexibility and strength of character. I would hope to discuss such matters openly, you answer carefully, to understand his concerns and find solutions that serve our family's best interests while maintaining harmony in our relationship. The diplomatic response earns a slight smile of approval. Mrs. Ashworth has confirmed that you understand marriage's hierarchical structure while possessing enough intelligence to navigate conflicts gracefully rather than through confrontation or martyrdom. When the gentlemen rejoin the ladies, the atmosphere has shifted subtly. Some invisible examination has been passed, some crucial approval granted. Edmund's eyes seek yours immediately, and the relief in his expression tells you he recognizes the change as clearly as you do. The remainder of the evening passes in comfortable conversation about literature, travel, and the upcoming social season. When your family takes its leave, Mrs. Ashworth extends a gracious invitation to call upon her at your convenience, the formal politeness masking what amounts to preliminary acceptance into the family circle. In the carriage ride home, your parents' satisfied silence speaks volumes. Your father's occasional murmur of most agreeable evening, and your mother's pleased expression as she gazes out at the fog-shrouded streets tell you that tonight's dinner has advanced your courtship significantly. But as you lie in bed later, staring at the ceiling, while Sarah brushes out your elaborate coiffure, you find yourself thinking not about Mrs. Ashworth's approval or your parents' satisfaction, but about Edmund's face when he spoke of your paintings. In a world where women's accomplishments are valued primarily for their effect on others, his genuine appreciation of your artistic vision feels like a precious gift one. You pray will survive the transformation from courtship's romance to marriage's practical realities. The inspection is complete, and you have apparently passed. Now begins the even more complex process of determining whether love can flourish within the rigid structure of Victorian matrimony and whether the Edmund who champions your watercolours during courtship will continue to value your creative spirit once you become his wife. December arrives with unusual warmth and the thrilling realization that your relationship with Edmund has entered a new phase of intimacy, not physical intimacy, which remains strictly forbidden until marriage, but emotional intimacy expressed through the elaborate codes Victorian society has developed to allow lovers to communicate beneath the surface of proper behaviour. The transformation began 3 days after the successful dinner at Ashworth House, when Edmund's regular Tuesday visit included a gift that made your pulse race with its implications. Rather than his usual offering of books or small tokens, he presented you with a fan, not just any fan, but an exquisite creation of carved ivory and painted silk depicting a garden scene in delicate watercolours. The artist's technique reminds me of your own work, Edmund explained to your mother's watchful presence, but his eyes conveyed the fan's true significance. In Victorian society, fans serve as more than cooling devices or fashion accessories. They are instruments of communication, allowing ladies to send complex messages through precise movements and positioning. That evening, alone in your bedroom, you discovered a small card tucked discreetly into the fan's mechanism, written in Edmund's careful handwriting. The language of the fan awaits your mastery. Tuesday next, I shall watch for your first lesson. Your heart hammered as you realised Edmund intended to establish a secret communication system, a way to express feelings that proper conversation could never contain. Sarah, your conspirator in all romantic matters, proved invaluable in teaching you the intricate vocabulary of fan language. Fan held in right hand in front of face means "follow me," she explained during your evening preparations. Fan twirled in left hand means "I love another." But you'll not be needing that one, Miss Charlotte. Her knowing smile suggested she understood the romantic implications of Edmund's gift perfectly. You spent hours practicing in front of your bedroom mirror. Fan pressed to right cheek meaning yes, left cheek meaning no. Drawing the fan across your forehead to signal "we are watched," resting it on your lips to convey "I would like to speak with you." The complexity of the code fascinated you, an entire emotional vocabulary expressed through seemingly innocent gestures that could pass unnoticed by watching mothers and suspicious chaperones. Tuesday's visit transformed into a thrilling game of hidden communication. With your mother embroidering peacefully in her chair, you and Edmund conducted an entire secondary conversation through fan movements and meaningful glances. When he asked about your thoughts on the latest Dickens novel, your fan pressed briefly to your right cheek, answered yes to his unspoken question. Do you return my feelings? His barely visible smile told you he had received the message clearly. The week that followed introduced even more sophisticated communications. Edmund began including pressed flowers in his letters, violets for faithfulness, forget-me-nots for true love, ivy for fidelity. Your return letters, carefully supervised by your mother, but carrying their own coded messages, reference specific flowers in your garden as responses to his floral declarations. I noticed the roses in our conservatory are blooming quite late this season, you wrote in one carefully crafted note. The red varieties show particular vigour, while the pink ones seem more delicate in their beauty. Edmund would understand that red roses symbolised passionate love, pink roses, gentle affection, and your observation of their vigour versus delicacy described the intensity of your own feelings. But it was during the Worthingtons' Christmas ball that your mastery of romantic communication truly blossomed. The elaborate social event provided perfect cover for the most daring exchange yet attempted. Dancing remained the only socially acceptable activity that allowed unmarried couples to touch, even through gloves, and the waltz, still considered slightly scandalous by conservative elements of society, offered unprecedented opportunities for intimate conversation. Miss Pemberton, Edmund said, as he led you onto the dance floor for your second dance of the evening, the maximum propriety allowed. You look radiant this evening. The blue of your gown complements your eyes beautifully. His words were proper enough for any listening ear, but the pressure of his hand at your waist, the way his fingers held yours just slightly longer than necessary during the turns, the intensity of his gaze when the dance brought you face to face, all conveyed messages far deeper than his polite compliments. Mr. Ashworth, you replied, your fan positioned to signal, I understand, while your spoken words remained safely conventional, this waltz is beautifully played. The musicians seem particularly inspired this evening. What you were really saying, in the coded language you had developed together, was that you understood his feelings, returned them completely, and were ready for whatever next step he might propose. His answering smile, brilliant and warm, despite the formal setting, told you your message had been received and welcomed. During the brief intermission between dances, as you stood near the conservatory doors catching your breath, Edmund managed a moment of more direct communication. The roses in Lady Worthington's garden are magnificent, he said, ostensibly commenting on the floral displays visible through the glass doors. I particularly admire the white variety near the fountain. Your pulse quickened. White roses symbolized new beginnings, and their placement near a fountain traditionally associated with wishes and dreams suggested Edmund was contemplating a significant change in your relationship. When you responded that you found white roses the most hopeful of all flowers, your fan held against your heart, you were telling him you would welcome whatever proposal he might offer. The carriage ride home that evening passed in a state of such emotional intensity that you barely noticed the December cold. Your mother, satisfied with your behaviour and the attention you had received from eligible gentlemen, dozed peacefully in her corner, while you stared out at the gas-lit London streets and replayed every moment of communication with Edmund. Later, as Sarah helped you from your elaborate ball gown, she noticed your unusually bright expression. "A successful evening, Miss Charlotte?" she asked, with the affection of a servant who had watched you grow from child to woman. "Very successful," you replied, then impulsively confided, "Sarah, I believe Mr. Ashworth intends to speak with Papa soon, about serious matters." Sarah's delighted smile told you that your romantic prospects were as obvious to your household staff as they were becoming to society in general. The careful dance of Victorian courtship was approaching its climax, and everyone involved could sense the approaching transformation. As you lay in bed that night, the ivory fan resting on your nightstand like a talisman of love, you realized that the ability to communicate secret feelings had only intensified your longing for the day when such secrecy would no longer be necessary. The elaborate codes and hidden messages that made Victorian courtship such an intricate game also served to heighten every emotion, to make each stolen glance and coded message precious beyond measure. But beneath the excitement of romantic communication lay a deeper understanding. These secret languages existed because direct emotional expression was forbidden to unmarried people. The fan language, the flower codes, the meaningful glances, all were symptoms of a society that simultaneously celebrated romantic love and severely restricted its expression. You were learning to love through layers of symbolism and indirection, preparing for a marriage that would, paradoxically, require far more direct communication about practical matters than courtship ever allowed about emotional ones. The Victorian marriage machine had taught you to speak in codes, but would marriage itself require you to forget this beautiful, complex language in favour of the plainer vocabulary of domestic partnership? The question haunted your dreams and added both sweetness and melancholy to every secret message exchanged with the man you increasingly believed would become your husband. January 15th, 1866, dawns clear and cold, with frost-etching delicate patterns across your bedroom windows that remind you of the lace trim on a wedding veil. You have no reason to expect this Tuesday to differ from the dozens of others that have structured your courtship with Edmund, yet something in the winter air carries an electricity of anticipation that makes your hands tremble as Sarah laces your corset. "You seem particularly nervous today, Miss Charlotte," Sarah observes, her experienced fingers working efficiently through the complex process of Victorian dressing. "Is there something special about today's visit? You cannot articulate the premonition that has settled in your chest like a living thing. The certainty that today will alter the course of your entire life. Perhaps it stems from yesterday's lengthy conversation between your father and mother behind the closed doors of his study, or from the way your mother has been studying you, with an expression mixing pride and impending loss, or simply from the accumulating weight of 3 months' courtship that has reached its natural culmination point. Your choice of dress requires unusual consideration this morning. The pale green wool that flatters your complexion might seem too celebratory, if you're wrong about the day's significance, but the conservative brown silk feels too sombre for what might be the most important afternoon of your life. Finally, you settle on dove grey with delicate blue trim, sophisticated enough for a momentous occasion, modest enough to avoid presumption. The morning passes with excruciating slowness. Your attempts at needlework result in crooked stitches and tangled thread. The novel that usually absorbs your attention might as well be written in ancient Greek for all the sense it makes today. Even your mother seems infected by the day's strange energy, rearranging the drawing room flowers twice and instructing the cook to prepare Edmund's favourite tea cakes just in case they might be needed. At precisely 3 o'clock, Henderson appears with his silver salver, but today something is different. Instead of announcing Edmund's arrival, he clears his throat formally and addresses your father directly. "Mr. Ashworth requests a private audience with you, sir, before joining the ladies in the drawing room. Your mother's embroidery needle freezes mid-stitch." Your father rises from his chair with the gravity of a judge approaching the bench. The moment you have been anticipating and dreading in equal measure has finally arrived. Edmund has come to request your hand in marriage. What follows feels like the longest 30 minutes in human history. You and your mother sit in the drawing room, she maintaining the pretense of needlework while you stare at the closed study door, as though you could divine the conversation taking place behind it through sheer force of will. The murmur of masculine voices occasionally penetrates the heavy oak, but the words remain indistinguishable, leaving you to imagine the negotiation of your future taking place without your presence or input. Victorian marriage proposals follow rigid protocol. The gentleman must first secure parental permission before addressing the lady directly. Your father will be evaluating Edmund's financial prospects, moral character, and ability to provide for a wife and eventual children. Edmund will be presenting evidence of his income, his property holdings, his family connections, and his serious intentions toward you. The conversation is simultaneously about your future happiness and a business transaction between men. When the study door finally opens, both men emerge, wearing expressions of satisfied formality that tell you everything you need to know before either speaks. Your father's slight smile and Edmund's barely contained excitement communicate the outcome more clearly than words. "Charlotte, my dear," your father says, his voice carrying unusual warmth, "Mr. Ashworth has something he wishes to discuss with you. With your mother's permission, you may receive him in the morning room." The morning room, smaller and more intimate than the formal drawing room, appropriate for conversations of personal significance while maintaining proper chaperoning distance. Your mother nods her approval while gathering her embroidery, understanding her role in this ancient dance. Edmund follows you into the morning room, and suddenly the furniture seems too large, the space too small, the very air charged with the weight of what is about to happen. He has never looked more handsome or more nervous, his usual confident demeanour replaced by an vulnerability that makes your heart ache with tenderness. "Miss Charlotte," he begins, then stops, running his hand through his carefully styled hair in a gesture that destroys his perfect appearance and makes him infinitely more dear to you. "Forgive me. I have rehearsed this moment countless times, yet now I find myself quite overwhelmed by its significance." You remain standing near the window, your hands clasped tightly to prevent them from trembling, torn between the desire to ease his nervousness and the propriety that demands you wait for his formal declaration. "I have had the honour of your father's permission to address you on a matter of utmost importance to my future happiness," Edmund continues, his voice gaining strength with each word. "Miss Charlotte, over these months of acquaintance, my admiration and affection for you have grown beyond anything I believed possible." He moves closer, though still maintaining the respectful distance Victorian propriety requires, and you can see your own emotions reflected in his warm brown eyes. Love, certainly, but also hope, fear, and desperate longing for your acceptance. Your intelligence, your gentle spirit, your artistic talent, your kindness to all around you, every quality I have observed has convinced me that you possess everything I could desire in a wife and life companion. His voice drops to a more intimate tone, though he knows your mother can hear every word from her position in the adjacent drawing room. Miss Charlotte, would you do me the extraordinary honour of accepting my proposal of marriage? The moment stretches between you like a held breath. This is the question that will determine everything that follows. Where you live, how you spend your days, what dreams remain possible, what identity you will inhabit for the rest of your life. Yet looking into Edmund's face, seeing the genuine love and hope written there, the answer feels inevitable. Mr. Ashworth, you reply, your voice steadier than you expected. Your proposal brings me great happiness. Yes, I will be honoured to accept. The relief and joy that transform his features create a moment of pure beauty that you will remember for the rest of your life. He steps forward and, with infinite care, takes your hands in his. The first time you have touched skin to skin, the first physical contact beyond gloved formalities, and the sensation sends warmth radiating through your entire being. My darling Charlotte, he whispers, using your given name for the first time, the intimacy of it more thrilling than any physical caress, you have made me the happiest of men. From his waistcoat pocket, he withdraws a small velvet box that contains your future in tangible form. The engagement ring he slides onto your finger is exquisite. A sapphire surrounded by diamonds, set in gold so perfectly crafted it seems to capture light from the winter afternoon and transform it into something magical. It belonged to my grandmother, Edmund explains, his thumb brushing gently over your knuckles as he admires the ring on your hand. She was a remarkable woman who would have adored you. I hope you will wear it with joy. The weight of the ring feels simultaneously foreign and completely natural, as though your finger has been waiting your entire life for this particular ornament. When you flex your hand, the sapphire catches the light and throws blue fire across the morning room walls, a physical manifestation of the transformation taking place within you. Your mother appears in the doorway at precisely the correct moment. She has been monitoring the conversation's progression and knows when to offer congratulations without appearing to have been deliberately listening. My dear children, she says, her voice thick with maternal emotion. What wonderful news this island. The next hour passes in a blur of embraces, congratulations, and practical discussions about wedding dates and arrangements. Your father joins the celebration with champagne that he has clearly been keeping ready for this occasion, and toasts are offered to your future happiness while you sit beside your new fiancé, marvelling at how completely your world has changed in the space of 30 minutes. But it is the moment when the door closes behind Edmund after his departure that the full weight of your new status settles upon you. You are no longer Miss Charlotte Pemberton, eligible young lady with an uncertain future. You are now Miss Charlotte Pemberton, engaged to be married to Mr. Edmund Ashworth, with a wedding to plan and a new identity to assume. As you stare at the sapphire on your finger, your first piece of jewellery from the man who will soon become your husband, you realise that your real education is only beginning. Everything that came before has been preparation for this moment. Now you must learn to be not just a wife, but the specific wife Edmund needs. The mistress of Ashworth Manor, the woman who will bear and raise his children. The engagement is complete, but the true transformation lies ahead. The morning after your engagement dawns grey and drizzling, but you wake with such radiance that Sarah mistakes your expression for illness until she notices the sapphire ring glinting on your finger. "Miss Charlotte," she exclaims, her professional composure dissolving into genuine delight. "Oh, miss, how wonderful! When did it happen? Was it terribly romantic?" As you recount yesterday's proposal while Sarah helps you dress, you become aware of how different everything feels now that you are officially engaged. The same bedroom that has sheltered your girlhood dreams suddenly seems temporary, a way station before your real life begins. Even your reflection in the dressing table mirror shows subtle changes, the same face, but with new purpose written in your posture, new awareness in your eyes. Your mother appears before you have finished breakfast, carrying an armload of newspapers and wearing the expression of a general preparing for battle. "Charlotte, dear, we must begin the wedding announcements immediately. The engagement must be properly announced in the Times and the Morning Post, and we need to send personal notes to all family and close friends. What follows is your first lesson in the elaborate social machinery that Victorian weddings require. Every detail carries significance. Every decision reflects on your family's status and breeding. The announcement's wording must strike the perfect balance between pride and modesty. The list of recipients must include everyone important enough to cause offence, if omitted while excluding anyone whose social status might diminish the announcement's impact. The Ashworth wedding will be one of the season's most important events," your mother explains, as she drafts the newspaper announcement. Edmund's family connections ensure significant social attention, which means everything must be absolutely perfect. The truth of her statement becomes apparent over the following weeks as congratulations pour in from family, friends, and social acquaintances. Your engagement has transformed you from a pleasant young lady into a person of genuine social interest. Invitations that might never have arrived now flood your Morning Post, as hostesses eager to display an engaged couple at their entertainments compete for your and Edmund's presence. But it is the daily routine changes that most clearly mark your new status. Edmund now calls every day rather than twice weekly, though your time together remains carefully chaperoned. The conversations take on new intimacy and practical focus as you discuss your future life together, your preferences for household management, your thoughts about children and family life. "I hope you will find Ashworth Manor to your liking," Edmund says during one of these daily visits, his tone mixing pride in his ancestral home with anxiety about your approval. "The house has been in my family for 3 generations, though it will require a woman's touch to make it truly comfortable." These discussions of your future home feel both thrilling and daunting. You will be mistress of a grand estate with dozens of servants, extensive grounds, and a social position that will require entertaining everyone from neighbouring gentry to members of Parliament. The responsibility seems enormous for someone whose greatest management experience involves overseeing your mother's dinner parties. The housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, has been with the family for 20 years, Edmund continues. She will be invaluable in helping you learn the household routines and staff expectations. The phrase, "learn the household routines," reminds you that engagement is fundamentally a training period preparation for assuming duties and responsibilities about which your current education has taught you only theory. You will need to master not just the social graces expected of a gentleman's wife, but the practical skills required to manage a large household, supervise servants, plan menus, organize entertaining, and maintain the family's social position. Your mother, recognizing these educational needs, begins what she calls your advanced preparation for marriage. This involves detailed instruction in household management, lessons in menu planning and wine selection, practice in managing difficult servants and social situations, and frank discussions about the realities of married life that would have been unthinkable before your engagement. A wife's first responsibility is to her husband's comfort and happiness, your mother explains during one of these sessions. Everything else, your own preferences, your artistic pursuits, even your comfort, must serve that primary purpose. The lesson is delivered with love, but its implications settle heavily in your chest. Your watercolour painting, which has brought you such joy, and which Edmund seemed to value so highly during courtship, will now become secondary to your duties as Mrs. Ashworth. The question of whether you can maintain your artistic identity within the constraints of Victorian wifehood remains unspoken but increasingly urgent. 3 weeks after your engagement, Edmund presents you with another gift that illuminates the complexities ahead. Instead of books or flowers, he brings you a small leather journal bound with blue ribbon. For recording your thoughts about our future home, he explains. I thought you might want to plan changes to the decoration, perhaps design gardens that would inspire your painting. The gift is thoughtful and romantic, yet it also represents a subtle transformation in how your artistic abilities are being perceived. Instead of creating art for its own sake, you are being encouraged to channel your creativity into domestic improvement, to become not an artist who happens to be a wife, but a wife whose artistic sensibilities enhance her household management. Still, the journal becomes precious to you as a space for recording not just domestic plans, but your private thoughts about the approaching wedding. Writing in it each evening, you document the excitement and terror of transformation, the love for Edmund that grows stronger daily, and the gradual understanding of what Victorian marriage will require you to surrender and embrace. April 15th, 1866, you write one evening. Edmund brought me daffodils from the Ashworth Manor gardens today, the first flowers from what will soon be my own grounds. They are lovely, bright, and hopeful like my feelings about our future. Yet I find myself wondering whether I will have time to paint the spring flowers next year, or whether household duties will occupy all my hours. I must not be selfish in these thoughts. Edmund deserves a wife who prioritizes his needs above her own pursuits. The journal entries reveal your growing awareness that engagement is not just preparation for a wedding, but preparation for a completely different form of existence. The girl who sketched landscapes for her own pleasure is evolving into a woman who will arrange flowers for dinner parties, plan menus for important guests, and perhaps, if time allows, create watercolours of her husband's estate that will hang in the morning room as decoration rather than art. Yet through all these preparations and realizations, your love for Edmund continues to deepen and strengthen. His daily visits have allowed you to know him beyond the formal politeness of courtship, and everything you discover increases your respect and affection. His kindness to servants, his concern for tenants on his estate, his genuine interest in your thoughts and opinions, all convince you that if marriage requires sacrifice of some dreams, it offers compensation in the form of partnership with a truly good man. As winter gradually yields to spring and your April wedding approaches, you find yourself caught between anticipation and nostalgia. Each day brings you closer to the moment when you will cease to be your father's daughter and become Edmund's wife, when your childhood bedroom will become a memory and Ashworth Manor will become home, when Miss Charlotte Pemberton will disappear forever and Mrs. Edmund Ashworth will take her place. The engagement period has taught you that Victorian marriage involves not just a change in legal status, but a complete reconstruction of identity. You are preparing not just for a wedding, but for metamorphosis, as complete as a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis beautiful, but forever changed from what came before. March arrives with the intensity of preparation that can only accompany an April wedding, and your mother's announcement over breakfast transforms your life into an elaborate shopping expedition disguised as feminine education. Charlotte, dear, we begin your trousseau assembly today. Mrs. Henderson from Regent Street will arrive at 10 to begin measurements for your wedding ensemble, and this afternoon we visit Harrods for linens. The trousseau, that complete wardrobe and collection of household goods that will equip you for married life, represents more than mere shopping. It is a ritual of transformation, the physical manifestation of your change from daughter to wife. Each item selected and purchased a step toward your new identity. Victorian society demands that a bride arrive at her husband's home completely prepared for every aspect of married life, from the most intimate garments to the grandest evening entertainments. Mrs. Henderson proves to be a formidable woman whose sharp eyes and measuring tape seem capable of divining not just your exact dimensions, but your character and social prospects. She circles you in your chemise and corset like a general surveying a strategic position, making notes in a leather-bound book while discussing your wedding dress requirements with your mother. For the ceremony itself, white silk satin, of course, Mrs. Henderson declares, her tone suggesting that any other choice would indicate questionable breeding. The train should be cathedral length. Nothing shorter would suit Miss Pemberton's station. And for the veil, Brussels lace with orange blossom trim, following Her Majesty's example. The process of planning your wedding dress reveals the intricate symbolism embedded in every detail. The white silk satin proclaims your virtue and purity. The cathedral train announces your family's social importance. The orange blossoms invoke fertility and eternal love. Even the number of buttons 37, requiring assistance to fasten, symbolizes your transition from independence to dependence on others, particularly your future husband. And for the trousseau proper, Mrs. Henderson continues, consulting her notes, we'll need day dresses for morning calls, afternoon ensembles for social visits, evening gowns for dinner parties, and, of course, the more intimate garments. Her delicate phrasing encompasses the collection of nightgowns, chemises, corset covers, and other undergarments that will constitute your most private married wardrobe. The afternoon expedition to Harrods with your mother opens your eyes to the sheer quantity of goods Victorian marriage requires. The household linen department alone contains enough merchandise to outfit a small hotel. Sheets of finest Irish linen, embroidered with your future married initials, towels in graduated sizes from face cloths to bath sheets, table linens for formal dining and casual family meals, antimacassars for every chair and sofa in your future home. A lady must be prepared for any social situation her married status might require, your mother explains, as she examines the thread count on yet another set of pillowcases. Edmund's position in society means you will be entertaining frequently, and everything must reflect the proper standard of refinement. The purchasing decisions feel overwhelming in their permanence. These linens will travel with you to Ashworth Manor, will grace the tables where you entertain Edmund's business associates and social connections, will be used by the children you hope to bear. Each monogrammed towel represents a piece of your future identity as Mrs. Edmund Ashworth. But it is in the selection of your personal trousseau that the reality of marriage becomes most intimate and immediate. The nightgowns of finest lawn cotton, trimmed with delicate lace and ribbon, are garments you have never owned before, designed specifically for married life, for sharing a bedroom with your husband. Your mother's careful explanations about their selection and care come wrapped in euphemism, but you understand that these garments will witness the most private aspects of your married relationship. Modesty and femininity should guide all choices. Your mother advises as she approves a particularly lovely nightgown of cream-coloured silk. A wife's appearance, even in the privacy of her bedroom, reflects her character and breeding. The jewellery component of your trousseau arrives as gifts from Edmund, presented during his daily visits with ceremony befitting their significance. A pearl necklace for everyday wear, ruby earrings for evening entertainments, a diamond bracelet for special occasions, each piece selected to complement your new status as a married woman while reflecting his family's prosperity. "These belong to my mother," Edmund explains, as he fastens the pearl necklace around your throat, his fingers brushing your neck in a touch that sends shivers through your entire being. "She wore them at her own wedding and hoped they would someday grace another Ashworth bride." The weight of the pearls feels both beautiful and significant, another link in the chain connecting you to your new family identity. When you catch sight of yourself in the drawing room mirror, wearing Edmund's family pearls with your engagement ring catching the afternoon light, you see not Miss Charlotte Pemberton, but the woman who will soon become Mrs. Edmund Ashworth. Your hope chest, crafted by London's finest cabinet maker, gradually fills with the accumulation of married life necessities. Embroidered handkerchiefs bearing your future monogram, silk stockings in subtle colours, appropriate for a married woman, gloves in kid leather and cotton for every possible occasion, fans for summer entertainments, and shawls for evening social events. The process of assembling your trousseau consumes entire days and most of your thoughts. Each purchase represents not just acquisition of necessary goods, but preparation for a life you can barely imagine. How will it feel to wear these nightgowns in a bedroom shared with your husband? To serve tea in china bearing your married name? To sign correspondence as Mrs. Ashworth instead of Miss Pemberton? Sarah, who assists with the cataloguing and care of your growing trousseau, occasionally offers insights that cut through the elaborate propriety surrounding these preparations. "It's quite a collection you're assembling, Miss Charlotte," she observes one evening, as she carefully folds another delivery of embroidered linens. "Enough to supply a duchess, I'd say." Her comment illuminates the excess inherent in Victorian trousseau preparation, the assumption that more is always better, that a bride cannot be too well equipped for marriage. Yet you also understand that these elaborate preparations serve psychological purposes, providing tangible proof of your family's care and concern, creating ritual around the momentous life transition you are approaching. As March progresses toward April and your wedding day draws nearer, the trousseau assembly reaches frantic intensity. Final fittings for your wedding dress require 3 seamstresses working simultaneously. Last-minute additions to your linen collection arrive daily, and your bedroom resembles a well-appointed shop specializing in feminine luxury goods. Everything must be perfect, your mother repeats like a mantra as she supervises the packing of trunk after trunk with your married life wardrobe. These items will serve you for years to come, and their quality reflects not just on your preparation, but on your understanding of your new position in society. The night before your final dress fitting, you sit in your childhood bedroom, surrounded by the physical manifestation of your approaching transformation. Trunks line the walls, filled with everything from the most intimate undergarments to the grandest evening gowns, from everyday household linens to the finest china for special occasions. Looking at this accumulation of goods, you realize that your trousseau represents more than preparation. It is prophecy, a vision of the life you will inhabit as Edmund's wife. The morning dresses predict social calls and household management. The evening gowns anticipate dinner parties and theatre engagements. The children's clothing patterns tucked discreetly among your personal items suggest the family you hope to create together. Tomorrow's final fitting will complete your transformation from engaged young lady to bride in waiting. The girl who began assembling her trousseau 3 weeks ago is already becoming someone different, someone prepared for the complex demands of Victorian married life, someone ready to surrender her childhood identity in favour of the woman she is about to become. The first week of April 1866 arrives with unseasonable warmth and the peculiar intensity that accompanies life's most significant transitions. Your wedding, scheduled for Thursday, April 12th, looms just days away, and every moment carries the weight of impending transformation. This morning, as Sarah helps you into your pale blue walking dress, you realise with startling clarity that you have fewer than 10 days remaining as Miss Charlotte Pemberton. The realisation brings a complex mixture of emotions that you struggle to articulate even in your private journal. Excitement about beginning life as Edmund's wife mingles with nostalgia for the independence you are about to surrender. Anticipation of your new home at Ashworth Manor combines with melancholy about leaving the bedroom where you have spent every night for 18 years. Miss Charlotte, you seem unusually thoughtful this morning, Sarah observes as she arranges your hair in the elaborate style that has become second nature to both of you. Wedding nerves, I suppose? Wedding nerves hardly captures the magnitude of what you are experiencing. These are transformation nerves, identity change nerves, the emotional upheaval that accompanies the complete reconstruction of your life structure. In less than 2 weeks, everything familiar will become memory. Everything new will become reality. Your mother appears in your bedroom doorway carrying the morning's correspondence, and her expression suggests correspondence of particular significance. Charlotte, dear, your Aunt Margaret writes from Scotland that she will arrive tomorrow for the wedding, and Edmund's cousin from Ireland confirms his attendance as well. The guest list has grown to nearly 150 people. The wedding guest list has become a source of considerable stress for your parents, as each addition requires corresponding adjustments to seating arrangements, menu planning, and accommodation logistics. Victorian weddings serve multiple purposes beyond celebrating romantic love. They are social exhibitions, family reunions, business networking opportunities, and public declarations of status and connection. We must review the receiving line arrangements again, your mother continues, settling into the chair beside your dressing table. As the bride, you will stand beside Edmund, but the order of family members requires careful consideration to avoid giving offence to anyone of importance. The receiving line, that formal gauntlet where you and Edmund will greet each wedding guest individually, represents your first public appearance as a married couple. Every handshake, every smile, every word of greeting will be observed and evaluated by family and society for signs of happiness, appropriateness, and proper breeding. These final preparations have consumed your entire household's attention. The cook has been planning menus for the wedding breakfast since your engagement. The gardener has been nurturing flowers specifically for your bridal bouquet and church decorations. Even the stable boy has been polishing carriages to transport the wedding party in appropriate style. Edmund's daily visits have taken on new intimacy and urgency as your wedding approaches. Yesterday's conversation revealed his own mixture of anticipation and nervousness about the approaching ceremony and its aftermath. Your honeymoon journey to the Lake District, your arrival at Ashworth Manor as its new mistress, the adjustment period that every newly married couple must navigate. I confess to some anxiety about the wedding ceremony itself, Edmund admitted during yesterday's visit, his usual confident manner replaced by endearing vulnerability. Speaking vows before so many people, knowing that our every expression will be scrutinized for evidence of our feelings, it seems rather overwhelming. His honesty allowed you to share your own concerns about the wedding's public nature. I worry that I might stumble over the words, or that my voice will shake so badly that no one can understand my responses, you confided. And the thought of walking down the aisle with everyone staring. These mutual confessions of wedding day anxiety have brought you closer together, creating intimate connection based on shared experience rather than romantic idealization. You are learning that marriage will require not just love, but partnership in facing life's challenges and uncertainties together. The final dress fittings this week have provided tangible evidence of your approaching transformation. Standing in the seamstress's shop, surrounded by mirrors that reflect infinite versions of yourself in white silk satin, you barely recognize the bride staring back. The elaborate gown, with its cathedral train and intricate beadwork, transforms you into a vision of Victorian feminine perfection that seems almost too grand for your everyday personality. The dress suits you beautifully, Miss Pemberton, Mrs. Henderson observes as she makes final adjustments to the hem length. You will make a most elegant bride. Yet, wearing the wedding dress also feels like wearing a costume for a role you are still learning to play. The woman in the mirror looks like someone from a fairy tale or romantic novel, not the girl who spent yesterday afternoon sketching birds in Hyde Park or helping your cook plan menus for next week's dinner party. Your final week as an unmarried woman includes traditional activities that carry ceremonial significance beyond their practical purposes. The gathering of your female relatives and closest friends for a maiden tea provides opportunity for last-minute advice about marriage, though much of this advice comes wrapped in euphemism and indirect reference that leaves you more confused than enlightened. Marriage requires patience and understanding, dear. Your Aunt Margaret counsels during the tea party in your family's drawing room. A wife must remember that her husband's needs and preferences take precedence over her own comfort or desires. The advice, while well-intentioned, reinforces the reality that marriage will require you to subordinate your individual identity to your role as Edmund's wife. The artistic pursuits that have brought you such joy, the books you love to read, the friends you enjoy visiting, all must now be evaluated in terms of how they serve or interfere with your duties as a married woman. Yet your final week also brings moments of pure joy and anticipation that override any concerns about identity sacrifice. Edmund's gift of a small painted miniature of Ashworth Manor allows you to visualize your future home in detail, from the morning room, where you will read correspondence, to the conservatory, where you might continue your botanical sketches. The rose garden blooms magnificently in June, Edmund explains as you study the miniature together. I thought you might enjoy painting the different varieties. My grandmother planted over 30 different types, each with its own character and beauty. His assumption that you will continue painting, even within the constraints of married life, provides reassurance that some aspects of your current identity might survive the transformation ahead. Perhaps Mrs. Edmund Ashworth can retain some connection to the artistic passions that have defined Miss Charlotte Pemberton. The night before your final, unmarried Sunday, you sit at your bedroom window, looking out at the London street where you have spent your entire life. Tomorrow's church service will be your last as Miss Pemberton. Thursday's wedding will complete your transformation. Friday will begin your life as Mrs. Ashworth. The magnitude of change feels both thrilling and terrifying. In less than a week, you will wake up in a different house, in a different county, with a different name, and completely different daily responsibilities. The girl writing in this journal tonight will cease to exist, replaced by a woman whose life you can imagine but have never actually experienced. Your final entry as Miss Charlotte Pemberton reads, April 8th, 1866, 4 days until my wedding, 4 days until I become someone entirely new. I pray that love will prove sufficient foundation for the transformation ahead, and that the woman I become will prove worthy of Edmund's affection and capable of the happiness we both hope to find together. Thursday, April 12th, 1000, 866 dawns with the kind of perfect spring weather that seems ordained by Providence for life's most important moments. Pale golden sunlight streams through your bedroom windows, accompanied by the scent of blooming flowers from the garden and the distant sound of church bells that will, in just a few hours, ring out in celebration of your marriage to Edmund. You wake before your usual hour, your body's internal clock apparently attuned to the significance of this day, and for a moment lie perfectly still in your childhood bed, savouring these final minutes as Miss Charlotte Pemberton. Tomorrow you will wake as Mrs. Edmund Ashworth in the Lake District Inn, where you will spend your first night as a married woman, but this morning belongs to the girl you have been for 18 years. Sarah appears in your doorway at precisely 6 o'clock, carrying a breakfast tray that you know you will barely be able to taste, despite her thoughtful selection of your favourite foods. "Good morning, Miss Charlotte," she says, her voice unusually formal in recognition of the day's solemnity. "I trust you slept well?" The truth is that you dozed fitfully between periods of wide-awake anticipation, your mind alternating between excitement about seeing Edmund at the altar and anxiety about the elaborate ceremony that will transform you from daughter to wife before an audience of 150 wedding guests. Even now, your stomach flutters with nervousness that makes eating seem impossible despite Sarah's encouraging presence. The bath is drawn, miss, and your mother asks if you would like assistance with your correspondence before beginning your wedding preparations. Sarah's reference to correspondence means the traditional notes of gratitude that brides send to their parents on wedding mornings, expressing appreciation for their care and guidance during the years leading to this momentous day. Writing to your parents proves more emotionally complex than you anticipated. How do you adequately thank the people who have shaped your character, supported your dreams, and prepared you for this day? How do you express gratitude while acknowledging that their primary success lies in making you ready to leave them forever? Dearest Papa and Mama, you write in your carefully practiced script, "As I prepare for my wedding day, my heart overflows with gratitude for the love, guidance, and preparation you have provided throughout my childhood. Every lesson in deportment, every discussion of moral character, every moment of patient instruction has contributed to whatever worthiness I possess as Edmund's bride. I pray that my conduct as a married woman will reflect credit upon the family name and justify the confidence you have shown in approving this union." The formal language of the note cannot adequately convey the depth of emotion you feel, the mixture of love, gratitude, and impending loss that accompanies this final communication as their unmarried daughter. By evening, your relationship with your parents will have fundamentally changed. They will no longer be your primary authority figures. Your home will no longer be their house. Your future will no longer be their direct responsibility. Your mother appears while you are sealing the notes, already dressed in her wedding attire, a magnificent gown of deep purple silk that announces her status as mother of the bride while avoiding any colour that might compete with your white satin splendour. Her expression combines maternal pride with the barely controlled emotion that has characterised her behaviour throughout your engagement period. "Charlotte, my darling girl," she says, settling beside you on the bed where you have spent every night of your life, today you become a woman in the fullest sense. I pray that your marriage brings you the happiness and fulfilment that every mother wishes for her daughter. The conversation that follows covers the practical and emotional terrain that your mother has been preparing to discuss since your engagement was announced. Final reminders about wifely duties, gentle guidance about the intimacies of married life, and reassurances that the nervousness you feel is entirely normal for any bride on her wedding morning. Remember that marriage is both a romantic partnership and a practical arrangement. your mother counsels, her voice carrying the wisdom of 25 years as your father's wife. Love provides the foundation, but daily kindness, patience, and consideration for your husband's needs create the structure that allows marriage to flourish. At 8 o'clock, your transformation from ordinary young woman to Victorian bride begins in earnest. The process requires 3 hours and the coordinated efforts of your mother, Sarah, and Mrs. Henderson, who has arrived to ensure that every detail of your wedding attire achieves absolute perfection. The elaborate sequence of dressing begins with undergarments that you have never worn before. A special corset designed to create the perfect silhouette beneath your wedding gown, chemise and petticoats of the finest lawn cotton, silk stockings held by garters embroidered with good luck symbols, and shoes of white kid leather that will carry you down the aisle to your new life. The corset must be laced quite tightly today, Mrs. Henderson explains as she and Sarah work in tandem to achieve the fashionable, wasp-waisted silhouette that your wedding dress requires. The photographs will preserve this day forever, and everything must be absolutely perfect. The mention of photographs, still a relatively new technology that will document your wedding for posterity, adds another layer of performance pressure to the day's events. Not only must you successfully navigate the complex ceremony and social expectations, but you must do so while maintaining an appearance that will look appropriate in formal portraits that may be viewed by future generations. Your wedding dress, when it is finally lifted over your head and settled into place, transforms you into someone you barely recognize. The white silk satin gleams like moonlight, the elaborate beadwork catches and reflects the morning sun, and the cathedral train spreads behind you like a river of ivory silk. Looking at yourself in the full-length mirror, you see not Miss Charlotte Pemberton, but a vision of Victorian bridal perfection that seems too grand for your everyday personality. "Oh, Miss Charlotte," Sarah breathes, tears glistening in her eyes as she surveys the completed transformation. "You look like a princess from a fairy tale." The veil requires 30 minutes to attach properly, its length and delicacy making it both the most beautiful and most fragile element of your bridal ensemble. Made of Brussels lace that belonged to Edmund's grandmother, and trimmed with orange blossoms that symbolize fertility and eternal love, it completes your transformation from girl to bride, with ethereal beauty that renders you almost otherworldly. Your jewellery for the day includes Edmund's family pearls, your engagement ring, and a pair of diamond earrings that are your parents' wedding gift, their final present to their unmarried daughter. Each piece carries symbolic weight beyond its material value, connecting you to your past identity while preparing you for your future role as Mrs. Ashworth. At 10:30, your father appears in your bedroom doorway wearing his formal morning dress and an expression that combines paternal pride with barely controlled emotion. "Charlotte, my dear," he says, his voice slightly unsteady, "you are the most beautiful bride I have ever seen." The carriage ride to St. George's, Hanover Square, passes in a blur of nervous anticipation and final parental advice. Your father holds your gloved hand while your mother arranges and rearranges your train to ensure it will spread properly when you exit the carriage. The London streets seem unusually bright and busy, as though the entire city has emerged to celebrate your wedding day. Remember to walk slowly down the aisle. Your mother reminds you as the church comes into view. Allow your train to follow naturally, and keep your eyes fixed on Edmund waiting at the altar. Everything else will take care of itself. The sight of St. George's Church, decorated with white roses and trailing ivy, brings tears to your eyes that you must blink away to avoid damaging your carefully applied complexion. Carriages line the street, depositing elegantly dressed wedding guests who will witness your transformation from Miss Pemberton to Mrs. Ashworth. As your father helps you down from the carriage, taking infinite care not to disturb your dress or veil, you catch sight of yourself reflected in the church's windows. A figure in white silk and lace who looks like someone from a romantic novel rather than the girl who sketched birds in Hyde Park just last week. "Are you ready, my darling?" your father asks, offering his arm for the walk that will carry you from your childhood identity to your married future. Taking his arm, feeling the solid reassurance of his presence beside you, you realize that despite all the nervousness and uncertainty, you are indeed ready. Ready to become Edmund's wife. Ready to assume your new identity. Ready to begin the greatest adventure of your life. "Yes, Papa," you reply, your voice stronger and more confident than you expected. "I am ready." The church doors open, revealing the path that leads to your future, and Miss Charlotte Pemberton takes her final steps toward becoming Mrs. Edmund Ashworth forever. The massive oak doors of St. George's Church open with ceremonial gravity, revealing an interior transformed into a bower of spring beauty that takes your breath away despite months of planning and preparation. White roses cascade from every pillar. Trailing ivy creates natural archways along the aisle, and hundreds of candles cast warm, golden light that makes the ancient stone walls seem to glow with blessing upon your union. But it is the sight of Edmund waiting at the altar that truly stops your heart. Dressed in formal morning dress of black wool with a white silk waistcoat, he has never looked more handsome or more nervous, his eyes fixed on the church entrance, with an expression of such longing and anticipation that tears threaten to overcome your carefully maintained composure. The wedding guests, 150 representatives of both families' social connections, rise as one when the organist begins the opening chords of the wedding processional. The sound reverberates through the church with such power that you feel it vibrating through your silk slippers into your very bones, announcing to everyone present that the moment of transformation has finally arrived. Your father's arm provides steady support as you begin the long walk down the aisle, your cathedral train flowing behind you like a river of ivory silk. The assembled guests blur into a sea of elegant morning dress and elaborate hats, their faces reflecting the romantic sentiment that Victorian society attaches to wedding ceremonies. But your attention focuses entirely on Edmund's face as each step brings you closer to him. "Beautiful bride," you hear whispered as you pass. "Lovely ceremony, and such a handsome couple." But the comments seem to come from very far away, as though you are moving through a dream toward the altar where your real life will finally begin. Edmund's expression, as you approach him, carries such love and reverence that you understand why Victorian poets write about weddings as sacred ceremonies rather than mere social events. The way he watches your progress down the aisle, the slight smile that transforms his nervous features, the tears that glisten in his eyes, despite masculine expectations of emotional restraint, all communicate feelings that transcend the elaborate social performance surrounding your union. When you reach the altar, your father performs the ancient ritual of presenting you to your future husband, placing your hand in Edmund's with words that formally transfer responsibility for your welfare from parent to spouse. "Edmund," he says, his voice thick with emotion, "I entrust to you my most precious treasure. Care for her as we have done, and may God bless your union with happiness and prosperity." The moment when your gloved hand settles into Edmund's creates a current of connection that seems to flow directly from your heart to his. This is the first time you have touched during the ceremony, the first physical contact between bride and groom in this sacred space, and the warmth of his fingers through your white kid gloves grounds you in the reality of what is about to happen. Reverend Dr. Morrison, who has served St. George's for 30 years and performed countless society weddings, begins the ceremony with the gravity befitting the occasion. His voice, trained in the projection required to fill large churches, carries to every corner of the sanctuary as he addresses both you and the assembled guests about the sacred nature of marriage. "Dearly beloved," he begins, the familiar words of the Anglican marriage service taking on new meaning when applied to your own union. We are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this company to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony, which is an honourable estate instituted of God, signifying unto us the mystical union that is betwixt Christ and his church. The theological language of the ceremony emphasizes marriage as a sacred covenant rather than merely a social contract, placing your union with Edmund within the context of divine blessing and eternal commitment that extends far beyond romantic affection or practical arrangement. When Reverend Morrison asks if anyone present knows of any impediment why you and Edmund should not be joined in marriage, the silence that follows feels charged with significance. This is the moment when any hidden objections might be raised, when family disapproval or secret obstacles might derail the entire proceedings, but the church remains perfectly quiet except for the soft rustling of silk and the distant sound of London traffic beyond the walls. The exchange of vows represents the heart of the ceremony, the moment when your verbal promises to each other create the legal and spiritual bond of marriage. Edmund speaks first, his voice clear and strong despite the emotion evident in his expression. "I, Edmund Charles Ashworth, take thee, Charlotte Elizabeth Pemberton, to my wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death us do part, according to God's holy ordinance, and thereto I plight thee my troth." When your turn comes to repeat the traditional vows, your voice surprises you with its steadiness and clarity. The words that seemed so overwhelming in rehearsal flow naturally, as though your heart has been preparing to speak them your entire life. "I, Charlotte Elizabeth Pemberton, take thee, Edmund Charles Ashworth, to my wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love, cherish, and to obey, till death us do part, according to God's holy ordinance, and thereto I give thee my troth." The word obey carries particular weight in Victorian marriage vows, formally acknowledging your acceptance of Edmund's authority as your husband, while promising to subordinate your will to his in all matters of consequence. Yet speaking the word while looking into Edmund's loving eyes, you feel not oppression, but trust confidence that he will exercise his husbandly authority with the same kindness and consideration he has shown throughout your courtship. The ring ceremony creates the most intimate moment of the entire service. Edmund takes your left hand in both of his, sliding the simple gold band onto your fourth finger while speaking words that transform a piece of jewellery into a sacred symbol. "With this ring I thee wed, with my body I thee worship, and with all my worldly goods I thee endow. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen." The weight of the wedding ring, settling beside your sapphire engagement ring, feels both foreign and completely natural, as though your finger has been incomplete without it. The gold band represents not just Edmund's promise to you, but your new identity as a married woman, your legal status as Mrs. Ashworth, your transformation from daughter to wife. When Reverend Morrison pronounces you husband and wife, the words seem to echo through the church with supernatural resonance. "Those whom God hath joined together, let no man put asunder." The ancient formula creates something new in the world, a marriage that did not exist moments before, a union blessed by divine authority and recognised by human law. Edmund's first kiss as your husband takes place before this audience of family and friends, a chaste but meaningful touch of lips that seals your wedding vows and announces your new status to everyone present. The kiss lasts only seconds, but it carries the weight of every secret communication during your courtship, every coded message exchanged through fan language and flower symbolism, every hope and dream you have shared about your future together. The recessional music begins as you and Edmund, now legally and spiritually united as husband and wife, turn to face the congregation as Mr. and Mrs. Ashworth. The faces looking back at you reflect joy, approval, and the romantic satisfaction that Victorian society finds in witnessing young love achieve its proper culmination in marriage. Walking back down the aisle, with your hand resting on your husband's arm, your train flowing behind you, and your veil catching the candlelight, you feel the magnitude of transformation that has just occurred. The woman processing out of St. George's Church is fundamentally different from the girl who entered an hour ago. Not just in legal status, but in identity, responsibility, and future possibilities. The church bells begin ringing as you emerge into the April sunshine, their joyous pealing announcing your marriage to all of London, while rice and flower petals rain down upon you from the gathered well-wishers. Edmund's smile as he helps you into the decorated carriage that will carry you to your wedding breakfast tells you that he, too, feels the wonder of what has just occurred. Mrs. Ashworth, he says, using your married name for the first time, his voice full of love and amazement. How beautiful you look, and how happy you have made me. The sound of your new name sends a thrill through you that has nothing to do with the elaborate ceremony or the social significance of the occasion. You are no longer Miss Charlotte Pemberton, but Mrs. Edmund Ashworth, and the woman who bears that name is someone you are only beginning to discover. The return to your family home for the wedding breakfast feels like entering a transformed world where every familiar room has been reimagined for celebration. The drawing room where you received Edmund's courtship calls now overflows with white roses and trailing greenery. The dining room has been expanded to accommodate tables for 150 guests, and every surface gleams with the finest china, crystal, and silver that both families possess. Your mother, magnificent in her purple silk and grandmother's diamonds, orchestrates the receiving line with the precision of a military commander, Charlotte Mrs. Ashworth. You and Edmund will stand here, she directs, positioning you near the decorated alcove where wedding gifts create a glittering display of society's approval. Remember to greet each guest personally, and don't forget to thank them for their presence at your wedding. The receiving line represents your first public appearance as a married woman, and the significance is not lost on any of the guests who approach to offer congratulations. Each handshake, each kiss on the cheek, each murmured blessing marks another step in your social transformation from Miss Pemberton to Mrs. Ashworth, acknowledged and accepted by the community that will define your married life. Mrs. Ashworth, says Lady Pembroke, the first to use your married name. What a lovely ceremony, and how radiant you look. Edmund has chosen wisely indeed. The compliment carries layers of meaning, approval of your appearance, acknowledgement of your successful transition to married status, and recognition of Edmund's good judgment in selecting you as his bride. Edmund stands beside you with the confidence of a man who has achieved his heart's desire, his hand resting lightly on your waist, in the first public display of husbandly possession, permitted by Victorian propriety. His responses to congratulations reveal his pride in you as his chosen partner, his gratitude for the community's support of your union, and his satisfaction at having successfully completed the elaborate courtship process. Mrs. Ashworth appears to be everything a gentleman could desire in a wife, observes Mr. Thornton, one of Edmund's business associates. And you realise that these comments are evaluating not just your appearance, but your suitability for the social and domestic roles you will soon assume. The wedding breakfast itself represents a masterpiece of Victorian entertaining that has consumed your family's attention for weeks. 3 elaborate wedding cakes anchor the buffet table, the traditional fruit cake for general consumption, a delicate sponge cake for the bride, and a rich chocolate creation for the groom. The symbolism extends to every dish: lamb for purity, salmon for fertility, strawberries for love, and champagne for celebration and prosperity. Your wedding cake cutting ceremony requires careful coordination between you and Edmund, as both the knife work and the feeding of each other must be accomplished without damaging your elaborate dress or veil. The first bite of cake you share, as a married couple, tastes impossibly sweet, though whether from the confection itself or the sweetness of the moment, you cannot say. "Make a wish, my darling," Edmund whispers as you lift the silver knife together, and you close your eyes briefly to wish for happiness, harmony, and the blessing of children to fill the nurseries at Ashworth Manor with love and laughter. The speeches that follow dinner represent both entertainment and important social ritual. Your father rises first, his voice carrying the emotion of a man giving away his most precious treasure while welcoming a new son into the family. "My friends," he begins, his words carrying to every corner of the expanded dining room, "today we celebrate not just the marriage of Charlotte and Edmund, but the union of 2 families whose friendship and mutual respect have made this joyous occasion possible." His toast emphasizes the alliance aspects of Victorian marriage, the way your wedding strengthens social and business connections between the Pemberton and Ashworth families, while creating new possibilities for both lineages. Yet beneath the formal language, you hear genuine paternal love and hope for your future happiness. Edmund's responding speech demonstrates the rhetorical skills expected of a gentleman while revealing the depth of his feelings for you. "I stand before you today as the most fortunate of men," he says, his eyes finding yours across the crowd of guests, having won the hand of the most accomplished and beautiful woman of my acquaintance. His praise of your accomplishments, your watercolour painting, your musical abilities, your grace in social situations serves to justify his choice while reassuring your parents and the assembled guests that he values you for more than merely your beauty or dowry. But it is when he speaks of your future together that his voice carries the most conviction. "I promise before you all that Charlotte's happiness will be my highest priority, her comfort my greatest concern, and her welfare my most sacred responsibility." The words represent more than romantic declaration. They constitute a public commitment to the ideals of Victorian marriage, where a husband's primary duty involves protecting and providing for his wife, while she creates the domestic harmony that enables his success in the wider world. As the afternoon progresses and guests circulate through the reception rooms, you begin to understand how completely your social identity has changed. Conversations that once included you as Miss Pemberton now address you as Mrs. Ashworth, with expectations and assumptions adjusted accordingly. "I trust you are looking forward to managing Ashworth Manor," says Mrs. Whitmore, one of your mother's closest friends. "Such a large household will require considerable skill, but I'm certain your mother has prepared you admirably." The comment reminds you that your married life will involve far more complex responsibilities than your girlhood has required. The pleasant conversations and artistic pursuits that have filled your days will be replaced by household management, staff supervision, social entertaining, and the eventual demands of motherhood. Yet observing Edmund as he moves among the wedding guests, you see how naturally he includes you in conversations about your shared future, how he speaks of our plans and our home, rather than my estate and my decisions. His behaviour suggests that while you will indeed be entering a hierarchical marriage structure, he intends to exercise his authority as a partnership rather than a dictatorship. The gift presentation ceremony reveals the elaborate network of social and family connections that your marriage has activated. Silver services, crystal vases, fine china, jewellery, household linens, and even furniture arrive with cards expressing hopes for your happiness and prosperity as husband and wife. From the Ashworth family library reads the card accompanying Edmund's wedding gift to you, a beautiful writing desk of polished mahogany equipped with everything necessary for correspondence, and, you hope, continued artistic pursuits. For my dear wife's creative endeavours and household management, the gift suggests that Edmund understands your need for personal space and creative outlet, even within the constraints of married life. The writing desk will travel with you to Ashworth Manor, creating a small sanctuary where Mrs. Ashworth might maintain some connection to the dreams and ambitions that defined Miss Pemberton. As the afternoon light begins to fade and wedding guests prepare to depart, you realise that this elaborate celebration has served multiple purposes beyond entertainment. It has publicly acknowledged your change of status, introduced you to the social network that will define your married life, demonstrated both families' prosperity and refinement, and created memories that will anchor your new identity as Edmund's wife. The last guests to leave are family members who embrace you with the particular emotion reserved for life's most significant transitions. Your grandmother's final words carry the wisdom of long experience. Marriage is the greatest adventure, my dear Charlotte. Embrace it with courage, nurture it with patience, and may it bring you the joy it has brought me. As the house grows quiet and servants begin clearing the elaborate reception arrangements, you find yourself alone with Edmund for the first time since becoming his wife. The silence feels charged with significance, weighted with the recognition that your real married life is about to begin. Mrs. Ashworth, Edmund says, taking your hands in his, are you ready for our next adventure? Looking into his beloved face, feeling the solid reality of the wedding ring that now binds you to him forever, you realise that despite all the preparation and ceremony, the most important part of your journey together is only beginning. The transformation from bride to travelling wife requires yet another elaborate costume change, as your wedding dress, magnificent as it is, cannot serve for the carriage journey to your honeymoon destination. Sarah, who has been crying intermittently since the ceremony, helps you from the white silk satin and into your specially designed travelling costume, an ensemble of deep blue wool with military-inspired frogging that proclaims you a modern woman while maintaining perfect propriety. Oh, Mrs. Ashworth, Sarah says, her voice thick with emotion as she carefully folds your wedding veil into its protective box. It seems impossible that you're really leaving us. This room has been your sanctuary for 18 years. The bedroom that has witnessed every stage of your development from child to woman now serves as the setting for your final transformation from daughter to wife. Tomorrow night, you will sleep in a hotel room in the Lake District as Mrs. Edmund Ashworth, and this space that has sheltered your dreams and secrets will become merely a memory of your former life. Your travelling trunk, packed with honeymoon clothing selected months ago, represents another bridge between identities. The nightgowns of cream silk and delicate lawn cotton await their first wearing as a married woman. The walking dresses and evening gowns will debut in unfamiliar surroundings, and every garment bears the monogram C.A. that announces your new status to the world. Edmund waits in the entrance hall, transformed from bridegroom to travelling husband in a dark wool overcoat and silk hat that make him look distinguished and slightly mysterious. The carriage that will carry you away from your childhood home bears ribbons and flowers that identify it as transporting newlyweds, turning your departure into a public celebration that extends beyond your immediate family. "Are you ready, my darling?" Edmund asks, as he offers his arm for the walk to the carriage, his voice carrying both tenderness and excitement about the journey ahead. The endearment, which would have been scandalous before your marriage, now represents his right as your husband to address you with intimate affection. The farewell scene that follows carries all the emotional weight of a final separation. Your parents embrace you with tears they have been holding back all day, your father's parting words emphasizing Edmund's new responsibility for your welfare and happiness. "Take good care of our treasure, Edmund," your father says, his voice unsteady with paternal emotion. "She has been the light of our home, and we trust her to your protection and love." Your mother's embrace lasts longest, accompanied by whispered reminders about wifely duties, encouragement about the adjustments married life will require, and assurances that you are prepared for whatever challenges lie ahead. "Remember everything I have taught you, my darling girl," she whispers, her words carrying layers of meaning about both practical household management and the more intimate aspects of married life that Victorian mothers discuss only in euphemisms and indirect reference. As the carriage pulls away from your family home, you wave through the window until the familiar facade disappears around the corner, feeling the mixed emotions that accompany all significant departures. Excitement about your future with Edmund mingles with sadness about leaving the security of childhood. Anticipation about your honeymoon combines with anxiety about the unknowns ahead. "No regrets, I hope?" Edmund asks, settling beside you in the carriage and taking your gloved hand in his, the first moment of true privacy you have shared since becoming husband and wife. "None at all," you reply, though the word regrets hardly captures the complexity of feelings that accompany such complete life transformation. Only wonder about everything that lies ahead. The journey to Windermere takes most of the day, passing through countryside that grows more beautiful with each mile. Spring flowers bloom in cottage gardens, sheep graze in emerald meadows, and ancient stone walls create patterns across rolling hills that remind you of the pastoral paintings you have always admired. Edmund proves to be an entertaining travelling companion, pointing out landmarks and sharing stories about the Lake District's literary associations. "Wordsworth lived here for many years," he explains, as the carriage navigates mountain roads that offer breathtaking views of lakes and fells. "And Miss Martineau has a house near Ambleside, where she entertains writers and artists from London." The mention of Harriet Martineau, one of the few women writers whose work has achieved serious recognition, sparks hope that your own artistic pursuits might find encouragement in your new surroundings. Perhaps the Lake District's inspiration will nurture Mrs. Ashworth's creativity as it has for so many other artists and writers. Your first sight of the Windermere Hotel, where you will spend your wedding night, creates a flutter of nervousness that has nothing to do with the building's elegant architecture or beautiful lakeside setting. Tonight will mark the beginning of your intimate married life, the aspect of marriage about which your education has provided only the most indirect preparation. "Mrs. Ashworth," says the hotel manager, "greeting you with the deference due to distinguished guests, we have prepared our finest suite for your honeymoon stay. I trust you will find everything to your satisfaction." The bridal suite surpasses your expectations with its elegant furnishings and romantic atmosphere, but it is the single large bed that dominates the room and reminds you most powerfully that you are no longer the innocent girl who woke up this morning in her childhood bedroom. Edmund seems to understand your nervousness and responds with the consideration that has characterized his behavior throughout your courtship. Perhaps you would like to rest and refresh yourself before dinner, he suggests gently. The journey has been rather tiring, and we have no schedule to maintain except our own comfort. The hours that follow pass in a haze of new experiences and gradual adjustment to married intimacy. Dinner in the hotel's elegant dining room marks your first public appearance as a married couple away from family supervision, and you discover that being Mrs. Ashworth in unfamiliar surroundings feels both liberating and slightly overwhelming. To my beautiful wife, Edmund toasts, raising his champagne glass in the private dining room the hotel has provided for honeymooners, and to the beginning of our life together. The evening walk along Lake Windermere provides opportunity for conversation that touches on deeper topics than your chaperoned courtship ever allowed. Away from family scrutiny and social expectations, you begin to discover each other as husband and wife, rather than a suitor and pursued lady. "I hope you know how much I love you, Charlotte," Edmund says, as you stroll beside the moonlit water, his arm around your waist in the first truly intimate embrace your marriage has permitted. Not just for your beauty or accomplishments, but for the kindness and intelligence that make you the woman you are. His words address fears you have barely acknowledged, that his love might be based on the performance of Victorian femininity rather than genuine appreciation for your character and mind. Hearing him affirm his love for your intelligence provides reassurance that marriage might not require complete suppression of your individual identity. When you finally retire to your bridal chamber, the moment you have been both anticipating and dreading throughout your engagement, Edmund's gentleness and patience ease the transition from maiden to wife with far more tenderness than your mother's indirect warnings had led you to expect. "We have our entire lives to learn how to make each other happy," he whispers, as he helps you from your travelling dress, his touch reverent and careful. Tonight is only the beginning of our discovery. The intimacy that follows, while initially overwhelming in its unfamiliarity, becomes a revelation of the deeper connection that marriage can create between two people who love each other genuinely. By morning, you understand why your mother spoke of marriage as woman's greatest adventure, and why the transformation from maiden to wife represents such a significant passage in every woman's life. Waking in your husband's arms as the sun rises over Lake Windermere, you realise that Miss Charlotte Pemberton has truly ceased to exist, replaced by Mrs. Edmund Ashworth, a woman whose life is only beginning, whose adventures lie ahead, whose happiness depends not on the dreams of girlhood, but on the realities of partnership with the man who has become the centre of her world. The honeymoon has begun not just your marriage, but your discovery of who you will become as Edmund's wife. 3 weeks of honeymoon bliss in the Lake District cannot last forever, and the morning of your departure to Ashworth Manor dawns with the mingled excitement and anxiety that accompanies another major life transition. Today you will see your future home for the first time, meet the servants who will look to you for guidance, and begin your transformation from new bride to mistress of one of Yorkshire's most respected estates. The carriage journey from Windermere to Yorkshire takes the better part of 2 days, with an overnight stop at an inn that caters to travellers of quality. Edmund's consideration for your comfort during the journey reveals itself in countless small details cushions, positioned just so, frequent stops to rest and refresh yourself, careful selection of meals that won't upset your digestion during the long hours of travel. I confess to some nervousness about your first impression of the manor, Edmund admits as the carriage winds through the Yorkshire countryside on your second day of travel. The house has been without a mistress for 3 years, since my mother's death, and I fear it may seem rather masculine and unwelcoming. His concern touches your heart and provides an opening to discuss your own anxieties about assuming responsibilities for which your upbringing has provided only theoretical preparation. Managing your parents' London townhouse with its staff of 8 hardly compares to overseeing a grand country estate with dozens of employees and complex agricultural operations. I hope the servants will find me adequate to my new position, you confess, smoothing the skirts of your travelling dress with nervous hands. I have so much to learn about household management on such a scale. Edmund's reassurance comes with the authority of someone who has watched his mother successfully manage Ashworth Manor for 30 years, Mrs. Patterson, our housekeeper, is remarkably capable and has been eager to welcome a new mistress to the house. She will guide you through everything you need to know, and the staff is accustomed to training new arrivals in their duties. Your first glimpse of Ashworth Manor takes your breath away with its impressive combination of grandeur and beauty. The Jacobean mansion rises from perfectly manicured grounds like something from a romantic novel, its stone facade glowing golden in the afternoon sunlight, mullioned windows sparkling like jewels, and formal gardens extending as far as the eye can see. "Oh, Edmund," you breathe, pressing your face to the carriage window for a better view. "It's magnificent, far grander than I imagined from your descriptions." The pride in Edmund's voice as he points out various features of his ancestral home reveals the deep connection he feels to this place that has sheltered Ashworths for 4 generations. The east wing dates to 1603, he explains, though the main house was rebuilt after the Civil War. The gardens were designed by Capability Brown, and the conservatory was added by my grandfather for my grandmother's botanical interests. The mention of your predecessor's botanical pursuits provides hope that your own artistic inclinations might find welcome in your new home. Perhaps the woman who becomes mistress of Ashworth Manor can maintain some connection to the creative passions that defined her as Miss Pemberton. Your arrival creates a scene of formal ceremony that both honours your new status and slightly overwhelms your London sensibilities. The entire household staff has assembled on the front steps in order of precedence: Mrs. Patterson the housekeeper, Mr. Davies the butler, the cook, ladies' maids, footmen, housemaids, and outdoor staff, extending in a line that seems to include half the county. "Mrs. Ashworth," says Mrs. Patterson, stepping forward to offer a curtsy that strikes the perfect balance between respect and dignity. "Welcome to Ashworth Manor. We are honoured to serve you and eager to make your transition to mistress of the household as smooth as possible." The formal introduction to your staff requires nearly an hour as you greet each person individually, learning names and positions while they evaluate their new mistress for signs of kindness, competence, and understanding of their roles in maintaining the estate's smooth operation. The tour of your new home that follows reveals the magnitude of your new responsibilities, while simultaneously inspiring awe at the beauty and history that now form the backdrop of your daily life. The morning room where you will read correspondence overlooks rose gardens that bloom in magnificent profusion. The library contains thousands of volumes, including many about household management and estate administration, and the conservatory offers perfect light for the painting you hope to continue. "This was my mother's favourite room," Edmund says, as he shows you the conservatory with its collection of exotic plants and comfortable seating arranged to catch the best light. "She spent hours here with her watercolours, and I thought you might find it equally inspiring." The thoughtfulness of his gesture, preserving this space for your artistic pursuits, provides reassurance that marriage to Edmund might allow more continuity with your former interests than Victorian convention typically permits. Your new bedroom, situated in the family wing with connecting doors to Edmund's chamber, surpasses anything you experienced even in London's finest homes. The four-poster bed, with its elaborate hangings, could accommodate a small family. The dressing room contains wardrobes sufficient for the extensive wardrobe your new position will require, and windows overlook the park, where deer graze beneath ancient oak trees. I hope you find everything to your liking, Edmund says, his tone mixing pride in his family home with genuine concern for your comfort. If anything needs alteration to suit your preferences, you have only to speak with Mrs. Patterson. The first week at Ashworth Manor passes in a blur of learning and adjustment that challenges everything you thought you knew about household management. Your morning meetings with Mrs. Patterson reveal the complexity of running an estate that functions as both family home and agricultural business, employing dozens of people whose livelihoods depend on efficient operation. The weekly menu planning requires coordination with the kitchen garden, the dairy, and local suppliers. Mrs. Patterson explains during your first formal meeting in the housekeeper's sitting room. As mistress, you'll approve all menus and ensure they reflect both family preferences and entertainment requirements. The entertainment requirements prove particularly daunting, as your position as Mrs. Ashworth carries social obligations that extend far beyond your London experience. County families expect invitations to dinner parties. London friends require accommodation when they visit the country, and Edmund's business associates need proper entertainment when estate matters bring them to Yorkshire. Lady Thornton has left her card, Mrs. Patterson reports, after your first week in residence, and Mrs. Whitfield inquires about your receiving day. The county ladies are eager to welcome the new Mrs. Ashworth to local society. Establishing your receiving day, the weekly afternoon when you will be available to receive social calls from county neighbours, represents your formal entry into Yorkshire society as mistress of Ashworth Manor. The date you choose will accommodate local customs while reflecting your family's social position. Your artistic pursuits find unexpected encouragement in your new environment. The conservatory proves perfect for continuing your watercolour painting, with morning light that illuminates botanical subjects and afternoon shadows that create interesting effects on the exotic plants Edmund's grandmother collected. I see you've discovered the conservatory's artistic possibilities, Edmund observes one morning, finding you at your easel with a half-finished painting of orchids. Mother would be delighted to know her favourite room continues to inspire creative work. His approval of your continued painting provides relief from concerns that marriage might require abandoning all personal interests in favour of household duties. The woman you are becoming as Mrs. Ashworth seems able to maintain some connection to the dreams and passions that defined Miss Pemberton, but it is the discovery of your predecessor's personal papers that provides the most insight into what your new life might hold. Found in the morning room desk that will now serve your correspondence needs, the previous Mrs. Ashworth's journals reveal both the satisfactions and sacrifices that come with your new position. Managing Ashworth Manor requires constant attention to detail, she wrote in an entry dated 15 years earlier, but the satisfaction of creating a home where family and guests find comfort and happiness compensates for the loss of many personal pursuits. Her words illuminate the bargain that Victorian marriage represents for women of your class. The exchange of individual identity for the more complex but constrained role of wife, mother, and household manager. Yet her later entries reveal genuine fulfillment in the accomplishments that this role made possible. Today we entertained the County Agricultural Society, and the dinner party's success reflected not just on Edmund's standing, but on my abilities as hostess, reads another entry. There is deep satisfaction in mastering skills that enable my husband's success and create hospitality that brings pleasure to others. The neighbouring county families who call during your first receiving day provide insight into the social network that will define much of your married life. Lady Thornton, whose estate borders Ashworth Manor, offers wisdom about managing household staff and entertaining in the country style that differs significantly from London customs. Country entertaining allows for more informality, she explains during her welcoming visit, but the standards remain quite high. Your guests will judge not just your hospitality, but your husband's prosperity and your own competence as mistress. Mrs. Whitfield, whose husband serves as local magistrate, discusses the charitable obligations that accompany your new position, visiting the poor, supporting the village school, participating in church activities that demonstrate the Ashworth family's commitment to community welfare. The estate workers' families look to the manor for leadership in times of difficulty, she explains. Your position carries responsibilities beyond your own household that extend to everyone who depends on Ashworth land for their livelihood. These conversations reveal that becoming Mrs. Ashworth involves not just managing a large household, but assuming a quasi-public role in county society. Your behaviour, your choices, your success or failure as a wife and hostess will be observed and discussed throughout Yorkshire, reflecting on both your own character and Edmund's judgment in choosing you as his bride. Yet for all its challenges, your new life at Ashworth Manor also offers satisfactions that your girlhood never provided. The authority to make decisions about household management, the resources to create beauty and comfort for family and guests, the opportunity to influence the lives of dozens of people who depend on the estate all provides scope for abilities and ambitions that London society would never have allowed you to develop. I believe you are beginning to feel at home, Edmund observes one evening, as you sit together in the library, he with estate papers, and you with correspondence that grows heavier each week as your social connections multiply. Looking around the room that has begun to feel familiar, at the writing desk where you now conduct business that affects dozens of lives, at the windows that frame views of grounds you are learning to love, you realize that home has indeed found new meaning. Yes, you reply, surprising yourself with the certainty in your voice. I am beginning to understand what it means to be mistress of Ashworth Manor, and I find the role more satisfying than I expected. The girl who sketched quietly in her parents' drawing room is evolving into a woman capable of managing complex household operations, entertaining distinguished guests, and supporting her husband's position in county society. Miss Charlotte Pemberton's dreams of artistic achievement are transforming into Mrs. Edmund Ashworth's reality of domestic and social accomplishment. The metamorphosis is nearly complete, and the woman emerging from this process possesses strengths and capabilities she never knew she possessed. 6 months after your wedding day, as autumn paints the Yorkshire countryside in shades of gold and scarlet that inspire daily painting sessions in the conservatory, you sit at your morning room desk penning a letter to your parents that reveals how completely your transformation from Miss Pemberton to Mrs. Ashworth has progressed. Dearest Mama and Papa, you write in the confident script that has developed through daily correspondence with suppliers, neighbours, and London connections. I can scarcely believe how quickly Ashworth Manor has become home, and how naturally the responsibilities of my position have settled upon me. The truth of this statement surprises even you. The nervous bride who arrived at the manor 6 months ago has evolved into a woman who confidently manages a household of 30 servants, entertains county society with skill that earns compliments throughout Yorkshire, and supports Edmund's business interests with social graces that enhance his reputation and connections. Your daily routine now bears little resemblance to the leisurely schedule that characterized your unmarried life. Mornings begin with meetings with Mrs. Patterson to review household concerns, approve menus, and coordinate the complex logistics of maintaining a grand estate. Afternoons involve social calls, receiving visitors, or overseeing improvements to the house and gardens that reflect your developing taste and authority. The rose garden restoration progresses beautifully, you continue in your letter, and I have commissioned a new border design that will provide subjects for botanical painting while creating a more impressive view from the morning room windows. The integration of your artistic interests with your household management duties represents a compromise that satisfies both personal creativity and social expectations. Your watercolours of Ashworth Manor's gardens have begun attracting attention from county ladies who request paintings of their own estates, creating an unexpected intersection between your artistic abilities and your social responsibilities. Edmund's pride in your accomplishments as mistress of his ancestral home reveals itself in countless small ways. The manner in which he defers to your judgment about household matters, his obvious satisfaction when guests compliment your hospitality, his encouragement of the artistic pursuits that continue to bring you joy. I believe I am the most fortunate of husbands, he said just last evening, as you reviewed invitations for the Christmas entertaining season. You have transformed Ashworth Manor from a house into a true home, and county society has embraced you as though you were born to this position. His words acknowledge the success of your adaptation, while recognizing that becoming Mrs. Ashworth required genuine effort and skill, rather than simply assuming a role for which your upbringing had fully prepared you. The London education that taught you deportment and accomplishments needed significant expansion to encompass the practical and social demands of country estate management. The approaching Christmas season will provide your greatest test yet as mistress of Ashworth Manor. The holiday entertaining, traditionally hosted by the estate, includes not only family celebrations, but elaborate parties for county society, charitable events for estate workers and local families, and house parties for London friends seeking country respites from city social demands. We expect 30 guests for the Christmas house party. You explain to your parents in your letter, including several of Edmund's Oxford friends, Lady Thornton's daughter who is recently engaged, and the Whitfields, who bring such excellent conversation to any gathering. The casual tone with which you discuss managing 30 house guests reveals how dramatically your confidence and capabilities have expanded. 6 months ago, the thought of coordinating meals, entertainment, and accommodation for such a large group would have overwhelmed you. Now you approach the challenge with excitement about creating memorable experiences for guests, while demonstrating your family's hospitality and refinement. Your relationship with Edmund has deepened and strengthened through the adjustments required by your new roles as husband and wife. The romantic idealization that characterized your courtship has evolved into partnership based on mutual respect, shared goals, and the daily cooperation required to manage complex household and social responsibilities. Edmund has been remarkably patient with my learning process, you write, though patient hardly captures his active support and encouragement as you navigated the transition from daughter to wife, from London society miss to Yorkshire estate mistress. The intimate aspects of marriage, initially so overwhelming and unfamiliar, have become a source of connection and joy that your mother's indirect warnings never prepared you to expect. The physical partnership between husband and wife proves to complement the emotional and practical partnerships that define successful Victorian marriages. Your letter to your parents cannot openly discuss the possibility that has begun occupying much of your private thoughts. The hope that you might soon provide them with the grandchildren they undoubtedly anticipate from your marriage. The signs remain subtle and uncertain, but the prospect of becoming not just Mrs. Ashworth, but eventually the mother of future Ashworths adds another layer of significance to your continued transformation. I find myself wondering what the coming year will bring, you write diplomatically, and hoping that our happiness will continue to grow as we settle more completely into our life together. The artistic pursuits that once defined your identity have found new expression within your married role. Your watercolours now serve not just personal satisfaction, but practical purposes, documenting estate improvements, creating gifts for friends and family, providing decoration for rooms throughout the manor that reflect your taste and creativity. I have completed a series of paintings showing the 4 seasons at Ashworth Manor, you tell your parents, which Edmund plans to have framed for the library. The project has allowed me to document our home's beauty while creating artwork that will have permanent place in the family collection. This integration of artistic work with household responsibilities represents the type of compromise that Victorian marriage often requires of women. Not the complete abandonment of personal interests, but their adaptation to serve family and social needs rather than pure individual expression. Your social position as Mrs. Ashworth has opened opportunities for community involvement that provide scope for leadership abilities you never knew you possessed. Your coordination of charitable activities for estate families, your support of the village school, your participation in county ladies' committees all create public roles that extend your influence beyond domestic management. The Harvest Festival we organised for estate families proved tremendously successful, you report with satisfaction, and several neighbouring estates have requested advice about organising similar events for their own communities. As you conclude your letter and seal it with the Ashworth family crest that now represents your identity, you reflect on the magnitude of change that 6 months of marriage have accomplished. The nervous bride who arrived at Ashworth Manor has evolved into a confident woman whose skills, judgment, and social graces have earned respect throughout Yorkshire society. The girl who once dreamed of artistic achievement has discovered that the role of wife and estate mistress offers different but equally satisfying opportunities for creativity, leadership, and accomplishment. The dreams have not disappeared, but have been transformed, adapted to serve the complex demands of the life you have chosen. Looking out the morning room windows at the autumn landscape that now seems as familiar as your childhood home once did, you realise that the transformation from Miss Pemberton to Mrs. Ashworth is essentially complete. The woman sitting at this desk, managing this household, supporting this husband, and preparing for whatever challenges and joys the future may bring, bears little resemblance to the uncertain girl who began this journey with a chance conversation at Lady Whitmore's soir. Victorian marriage has required sacrifices, of independence, of certain dreams, of the singular focus on personal development that characterises unmarried life. But it has also provided compensations in the form of partnership, purpose, and the deep satisfaction that comes from successfully mastering complex challenges while creating happiness for others as well as yourself. Mrs. Edmund Ashworth has found her place in the world, and it is exactly where she belongs. Thank you for listening to this Victorian wedding journey. If you enjoyed following Charlotte's transformation from eligible young lady to accomplished wife and estate mistress, please like and subscribe for more immersive historical stories that bring the past to life through personal experience and emotional truth.